You know, on this channel we tend to break Pokemon down into all sorts of wacky categories. Legendary Pokemon, starters, pseudos, gimmicks, freaking Pika clones for crying out loud. But sometimes the most broken Pokemon of all land in none of these categories. I mean, I don't think they've ever landed in the Pika clones to be fair, but still, sometimes the most threatening guy in the game is the guy from Route 4. So good morning everybody, good morning, it's JPR, and today let's break down who the most broken regular Pokemon are to use in your average playthrough of every region. But wait just a minute, before I painstakingly sit down to record this video for your entertainment, I better make sure that I have a good place to stand. And that's where the sponsor of today's video, FlexiSpot, comes in. I don't know if you guys have heard, but sitting is the new smoking. And with most of us sitting behind our computer screens for hours at a time, I am a huge proponent of getting yourself a good standing desk. And I could not be any more pleased with my FlexiSpot E7 Pro standing desk. First off, this thing is incredibly stable. You won't have any wobbly monitors, things falling off super easily, and personally, I love to use it for drawing or just reorganizing my trading cards. It even holds up to 440 pounds, which I am not, but my cat is getting close, so here's both of us sitting on it. I also got this desk comboed with my FlexiSpot treadmill, which is fantastic for getting my steps in while getting my work and games in. Here's me literally playing the new Pokemon game while getting my exercise. It is a game changer for saving me time. It also has 9 levels of incline, supports up to 275 pounds, and comes with a 2-year warranty. So stop being confined to your chair all day. Check out FlexiSpot.com, where they are currently running one of their biggest Black Friday deals ever, with some products up to 80% off. Don't miss out. Shop now, and be sure to leave a note that your buddy JPR sent you. I would really appreciate it. And also use my coupon code YTE730 to get an extra $30 off of your E7 Pro standing desk. Thank you FlexiSpot for sponsoring. Let's get back to the video. In the Kanto region, it's pretty widely agreed upon that regardless of the version, the generation, or even the format, regular playthrough, speedrun, or Nuzlocke, Nidoking is the undisputed king of Kanto. Let's break it down. For starters, Nidoran Male is an incredibly early game encounter, being found just after the first gym in Pewter City, and comes equipped with a pretty strong base 65 power Hoenn attack at only level 8. Dude, put that thing away, there are like children here. Nidorino is a relatively early first evolution at level 16, giving it better stats than most Pokemon for the early to mid portion of the game, and it evolves with a Moonstone, which are findable as early as, well, you guessed it, Mount Moon, which should be expected. That's like finding a Big Mac at McDonald's. And unlike most stone evolutions, Nidoking doesn't really miss out on any good moves by evolving incredibly early, just Thrash at level 23, which is easily replaceable. Nidoking also boasts one of the best TM learn sets in the Kanto region, even in the earlier gens where most Pokemon couldn't use a lot of TMs. Between Surf, Thunderbolt, Earthquake, and Ice Beam, Nidoking covers virtually every relevant matchup in the game. While Nidoqueen does get almost entirely the same moves as Nidoking, the King is preferred simply due to its higher speed and offensive stats, which let it steamroll main story opponents better than a defensive Pokemon like Nidoqueen. See, I'm not sexist, I'm just sticking to the facts here. Nidoking's typing also makes it a fantastic matchup for the likes of Lieutenant Surge, Erica, Koga, Blaine, almost all of Team Rocket, Bruno, Agatha, and even Lance thanks to Ice Beam. That's a ton of winning matchups for only one Pokemon. They don't call him the King for nothing. Not you, King, sorry bud. Now, as usual, I get to the Johto region and I am completely stumped on which Pokemon from this generation would be the best for a playthrough. Most people use Ampharos just because it's one of the very few early Pokemon that evolves multiple times and gets really good stats down the line, but it honestly kinda struggles with most of the region's major fights. Feraligatr and Typhlosion are pretty excellent party Pokemon, but hey, you remember the rules, we're looking for average Joes, not starters. Heracross statistically should be the best, but his Gen 2 move pool is absolutely horrid, as he has to rely on the base 20 power Rock Smash for most of the journey. This is unfortunately the problem with every Gen 2 Pokemon ever. He is quite good in the remakes when he gets Aerial Ace and Brick Break prior to level 20 though, which easily makes him one of the best Johto Pokemon. Fighting is such a valuable type here as it defeats Whitney, Jasmine, Price, and Karen, and doesn't really outright lose against anybody other than Will and Koga in the Pokemon League. But you know what? I absolutely hate to say it because it's such a major cop-out, but taking trade evolutions like Alakazam and Gengar off the table, it's definitely just Nidoking again. Even in Gold and Silver, where the only way to get a Moonstone during the main story is by having your mom randomly purchase it with the money you save. Good to know she isn't just taking it to the casino. Unfortunately, just as Kanto is super valuable to the Johto games, so too are the Kanto-based Pokemon. Almost all of Johto's best performers are the Gen 1 classics like Nidoking, Gyarados, Tentacruel, Lapras, and pretty much all of the old trade evolutions. Miltank is probably the next best option from Johto thanks to its amazing offensive stats, or Caesar if you have access to trading, or again, Heracross in the remakes only. But most people are honestly better off making a team that consists mostly of Gen 1 Pokemon. I'm so sorry, Johto. In Generation 3, I also have to struggle to not say a starter Pokemon because it's almost definitely just Swampert thanks to its lack of weaknesses and incredible move pool. And the next Pokemon who immediately came to mind was Shedinja, who can negate most of the major boss fights in the game thanks to Wonder Guard, making it an invaluable Nuzlocke Pokemon. But Shedinja is also incredibly inconsistent, and if you're not careful, it easily gets taken down by Poison Point, Sandstorm, or other random factors. And again, I'm looking for completely average Joes. Shedinja, while not a starter, pseudo, or legendary, is still a pretty remarkable gimmick Pokemon, so it feels kinda icky to include him. And once again, I have to ignore Gyarados, the elephant in the room who is spectacular in basically every region. If I had to pick one Gen 3 Pokemon in particular, it would probably be Breloom. Breloom's stats make it look like a Gen 9 Pokemon who somehow infiltrated a Gen 3 game. Its absurd 130 base attack and technician ability mean that even the relatively weak Mach Punch can one-hit KO most foes in the game. It also has access to Spore, arguably the best status move in the entire game, and it only struggles in a select few gym battles, namely Flannery, Winona, and maybe Liza and Tate. That one could go either way. It's a solid pick from Petalburg Woods all the way to the Pokemon League, and has way more winning matchups than other Gen 3 titans like Gardevoir and Manectric. Especially in Sapphire, Emerald, and Alpha Sapphire, where there are way more water types to face thanks to Team Aqua, and by more water types, I mean entirely just Carvanha and Sharpedo. But Breloom is more than fine with that. Okay, but seriously, a water-based team in a water-based region only uses Carvanha as their sole water type. That has to be a generational game design fumble. For a non-Gen 3 Pokemon, specifically in Omega Ruby and Alpha Sapphire, Magnezone is an absolute beast here. You can evolve it from Magneton as soon as you obtain Surf, even without the access key to New Mauville's lower floors. And from there, Magnezone wins every relevant matchup in the game. At least in Alpha Sapphire where you have to fight Archie. Definitely an incredibly broken mid to late game Pokemon for Hoenn. In the Sinnoh region, across all of its different games and different Pokedexes, one option is consistently good from beginning to end: Staraptor. I mean, there's a reason behind it being the most commonly used regional bird maybe ever. Thanks to Gardenia and Maylene, Staravia boasts a pretty good early game matchup spread, and as soon as it evolves into Staraptor, it becomes a demon for the rest of the game. I shouldn't have to tell you how good Intimidate is as an ability, especially in Nuzlocke where it can disable highly threatening physical sweepers. And get this, by pure coincidence, almost every single gym leader in Sinnoh focuses on physical attackers. The only one who doesn't is Fantina, but who cares? Staraptor is immune to Shadow Ball, so it's still mogging her. It also crushes Team Galactic, who primarily specialize in Bug-type Pokemon. You know, the most cosmic type. The other two common Sinnoh Pokemon that I see who have a fantastic matchup spread against most trainers are Lucario and Togekiss. However, both of these guys come from eggs that are gifted to you. I wouldn't necessarily call them completely average Pokemon. Heck, most kids in 2007 thought Lucario was legendary because he had a movie, so no, I'm not including him. Gen 5 might be the easiest generation in this video since Gen 1. Thanks to the lack of returning Pokemon in Black and White, I can say beyond the shadow of a doubt that Excadrill is one of the most broken main story Pokemon ever devised. Not only does it have incredible stats, great abilities, and an even better move pool, but it's also a highly abusable Nuzlocke encounter since you can use repels to obtain a Drillbur in basically any cave in the Unova region, since they appear exclusively in dust clouds. Stoutland might be better for speedrunning, and Conkeldurr is certainly a contender if trading is an option thanks to how amazing fighting is in this region. But the combination of ground and steel makes Excadrill an absolute beast in Unova. Not a single gym in this entire region, aside from Marlin and Black 2 and White 2, has a winning matchup against Excadrill. Realistically, the only opponent it will struggle against is Marshall in the Pokemon League. They also gave this thing Rock Slide and Earthquake by leveling up, and it gets both of them before level 40. And on top of that, X-Scissor and Brick Break via TM, giving this thing near perfect coverage. Excadrill is a great pick in any region, but very, very few Pokemon are as good in a single region as Excadrill is in Unova. And very few Pokemon fans are as knowledgeable as those who click subscribe on my channel. It's free! And also, apparently YouTube has this new hype feature, which only a select few people have access to, so if you're one of the chosen ones, then I would really appreciate if you hyped my video. Thank you. Kalos is such a hard region to rank, mostly because all the best Pokemon are just given to you. 450 Pokemon in its decks, and yet everybody is rocking the same 5 overpowered mons, it feels like. So, no, I can't say Mega Lucario, Mega Charizard, Mega Gengar. Any of those would basically be cheating my own rules. Even Aegislash feels like it's pushing it. Sure, it's not a pseudo-legendary, it's not a starter, it's not even as gimmicky as something like Shedinja, but it's anything but an average Pokemon. It has a unique ability, it changes forms on the fly, so I don't even want to say Aegislash, even though he probably is the best non-mega, non-starter Pokemon in X and Y. Alright, enough deliberating. I will go with Hawlucha. Like Nidoking, Hawlucha is the speedrunning GOAT of Kalos. Well, co-GOAT, I should say. Farfetch'd actually does carry the first leg of the run, funnily enough. Hawlucha has impeccable stats for when you first catch it around level 20, and those stats stay on the upper end through the end of the game. It also comes equipped with the very strong move Aerial Ace right away, gets an upgrade to Flying Press at level 28, and finally High Jump Kick at level 44. Throw a few TMs in and Hawlucha is set for the journey. One of those TMs will likely be Swords Dance, which can be bought during your first trip to Lumiose City, so Hawlucha is ideal for setting up and sweeping opponents. And for the 4th move slot, you can bounce between Poison Jab and X-Scissor, which means that Valerie and Olympia, the only boss fights that Hawlucha should theoretically lose, can turn into dominant victories. In Alola, once again, I have to skip on the incredibly obvious starter option, as Primarina might just be one of the greatest main story Pokemon ever, especially with how incredibly busted fairy types are in this region. Alola also has some really funny early encounters like Salamence on Route 1, Hawlucha once again as a trade in Ultra Sun and Ultra Moon, and of course Metagross, who's available somewhat early for the first time ever. But I'm looking for a Gen 7 Pokemon whose name isn't Naganadel. And one Pokemon that I think is criminally underrated in terms of how good it is Mudsdale. The fatal flaw with most Alolan Pokemon is that they're incredibly slow and have to eat a lot of damage over the course of the game, making most of them pretty bad, actually. But with the exception of maybe Toxapex, who is pretty off the grid in these games, Mudsdale is maybe one of the few with the bulk to get the job done. As a Mudbray, it gets the wildly strong high horsepower at only level 24, a move that is sure to carry you for most of the journey. And with the TMs of Rock Slide and Low Sweep being available early in the game, it is a very well built moveset right off the bat. At level 34, it also learns Heavy Slam, a move that not only counters Alola's many good fairy types, but also a move that Mudsdale uses much better than most due to how incredibly heavy it is. Meaning, more often than not, it will be hitting for between 100 to 120 base power. Stamina is also an excellent ability that allows Mudsdale to easily wall out physical attackers, making threats like Totem Komolo and Totem Mimikyu relatively easy fights. And thanks to its solid mono-ground typing, it doesn't lose any fights after the water and grass trials in the second island. From Olivia to the end of the game, it's pretty much smooth sailing for Mudsdale. Yeah, there are a ton of past generation Pokemon that are way more broken than Mudsdale in this region, like the always amazing Gyarados, Snorlax, and Magnezone. But I like highlighting Pokemon from their own region, as long as they're not from Johto. In Galar, man, I am really glad that I can somehow weed Drakevish out of this. We don't need another 5-minute explanation of why Vicious Rend is the dumbest move ever made. Another Pokemon that I'd like to highlight, but feels like cheating, is Galarian Darmanitan. Guerrilla Tactics is one of the most busted abilities ever made, and when equipped with a Choice Scarf, which are findable in the main story in this game, it becomes an unstoppable sweeper in every single battle. But it does sort of feel like a gimmick, and Darmanitan is only available at the very end of the game. So for something with a little more relevance throughout, I feel like Corviknight is actually a really strong answer. Corviknight has some of the best typing in the game, and it gains it at just the right time. It holds its own very well through the first portion of the game where there are remarkably more grass and bug type trainers. And then, after the midway point, it will be evolving and gaining steel. The combination of these two types make it a fantastic pick for Gordy, Melanie, Raihan, and then Bede and Marnie in the Pokemon League. Its stats may not be the most impressive at a glance, but that solid 105 base defense makes it incredibly reliable for Nuzlocke, And if you teach it body press, it'll basically have all the coverage it'll need. It's kind of surprising that I managed to fit 2 regional birds in this video since they're designed to be super basic early game Pokemon, but Corviknight and Staraptor are just a different breed, man. In Paldea, I once again must ignore arguably the most broken trio of starters for a main story playthrough of all time, and turn my attention to your average wild encounters. The first obvious pick is Flamigo, who I already mentioned in another video about unexpectedly great Pokemon. Flamigo is Scarlet and Violet's undisputed speedrun champion, being obtainable in the game's very first area once the Academy tutorial is over, and can easily carry you from level 7 all the way to the battle against the AI professors. It's basically the successor to Hawlucha's throne. It's also funny to include him because he's about as regular as a Pokemon gets. Most of Scarlet and Violet's other broken main story Pokemon seem incredibly intentional, like Ceruledge and Goldengo. These guys are practically the mascots of Gen 9, and we don't allow industry plants in this video. Annihilate is also very close. I can't think of a solid reason to disqualify him, it's just that Rage Fist is so comically broken. This guy is like Nuzlocke ban-worthy. I mean, sure, he's catchable in the wild, there's no trades or gimmicks involved to get one. I'll give him his trophy. He's definitely the most broken main story Pokemon in Paldea, and arguably competitively too. But I want to close the video out with a shout out to Tinkaton, who feels a lot more regular and in line with the other Pokemon from this video. Tinkaton boasts the best typing in the entire game. Fight me on that statement if you want to. Fairy Steel is just so absurdly good offensively and defensively, which is super important for a game where you fight against a specialist of all 18 types, which has never been done before. And despite Tinkaton's very underwhelming attack stat, it almost doesn't matter at all because Terra Steel Gigaton Hammer is enough to win any boss fight in this game. The only problem is that now we don't have a best Pokemon for Galar. Tinkaton killed him. So who are some other perfectly average, normal Pokemon that you can think of that are as broken as these guys? Let me know in the comment section down below. But don't forget to leave a like on this video if you enjoy, subscribe for more videos just like this one, and I'll see you guys next time.